Ray-Pec parents, hello, Mike Slagle, your superintendent of schools. As you know, very recently, we've asked you to submit your questions to us about the reopening of schools on August the 24th. We have several we've gone through, and joining me today is Dr. Michelle Hofmann. Dr. Hofmann is the Director of Elementary Education for the Ray-Pec School District, and I want to bounce several of your questions off of her, so let's see how she does, shall we?
All right.
Dr. Hofmann, welcome.
Thank you.
Quick question for you. We have a couple questions around our virtual education program, VIPER, that we have put together. One question is, how many times a day when class is virtually taking place, teachers need to communicate directly with the students?
So there will be a variety of learning posted, but all through a common platform. In VIPER, families who chose VIPER, that will be Canvas. And then for our families who are in person that might be home temporarily at a distance, that will be Seesaw. So students will be communicated once at the beginning of the day and then throughout as necessary for feedback purposes as students are doing learning online, and then they may need to receive feedback from the classroom teacher.
Excellent, excellent. So tell me more about what the virtual experience will look like in the classroom for our kids.
So there will be a balance of what we call synchronous and asynchronous learning times. So the synchronous ones are the ones where the class will come together either as a whole class or as a small group. Once in a while it'll be individually with the classroom teacher in a live Google Meet.
Right.
That's when the teachers have determined there are portions of the learning day that it's important for them to work with students live and give that feedback in the moment, and for students to be able to have the opportunity to collaborate and build upon each other's ideas in that same session. Then the remainder of the day, outside of those 2 or 3 or 4 Google Meets that will be very short in length, but the remainder of the day activities will be able to be done really when works best for the student and the family. Everyone's got a little different schedule when learning from home, and so there will be families who may choose to have their learning activities to be done in the evening. There are students who like to get them all done at one time, and there are students who like to space that out. So families will have options to set the schedule for those asynchronous activities that are done independently without the live meet for what works best for their child and their family.
So it sounds like there's been lots of flexibility built in for parents to kind of choose how the learning takes place in the home. Is that true?
Yes, I would say that's definitely true. Our administrators and our teachers who are going to be designing these days when students are distance learning have definitely taken that into account so that families can make it work in what is not a school setting.
Yeah, now, I'm assuming that there will be different expectations depending on the grade level of student for the amount of screen time during the day. Absolutely.
So that's always ever present in our minds, whether we're in person or we are in a distance learning situation. And so it is dependent upon the grade level, and it is even sometimes dependent upon the type of learning activity that's going on that day. So there may not be the same amount of math live that's needing to be done or done online. It may be on Monday, there may be more or less that's needed for the activity the next day. We'll definitely try to keep screen time in balance so that students have lots of hands-on and time to learn without the screen in front of them.
And to the parents who are both working outside the home and trying to navigate this, that's where the flexibility comes in.
Absolutely. Again, we know families have a variety of situations. Their child may be at daycare during the day, grandma or another relative might be caregiving, they may have someone else, they may be home all day. And so we want to create that learning, especially for the asynchronous times, where they have flexibility to make that happen and schedule that with their child for what works best for them. And in the event that a family can't arrange for their child to attend even those live meets, those will be recorded, and so they can access them on demand as they need. Those will be in the Seesaw if they're a class or a child that is home just temporarily, or in Canvas for the VIPER students that we have.
Outstanding. So if I'm a parent of an elementary school child, am I looking at 2 hours a day, 4 hours a day? Does it vary? Tell me a little bit about what that schedule looks like.
Absolutely, it varies. The majority of the day is that asynchronous learning time, where there's that flexibility to do it whenever works best for the child and the family. There will be a smaller portion of the time where those live meets will occur, and it will depend upon, again, kind of what's the unit that they're doing, how the student is progressing. So a student may be asked to join an additional small group meet if the teacher recognizes they either need to have a push to accelerate their learning, or if they are a student who's perhaps struggling and has a misconception that the teacher has noticed, and they want to have just a little bit of extra time, a little few minutes with them to get under that and help the student move forward.
Excellent. As you know, August the 24th, we're also welcoming 4,000
Yes.
roughly students coming back to the in-person environment. If we should have to transition from an in-person to a distance learning environment at the elementary level, what does that look like to parents and what does that look like to students?
Absolutely. So it's interesting that you mentioned that in this question right now, because I just came straight over here and left a group of teachers who is working on that training right now, setting that up to where if it's overnight, their class is at home, they have learning activities already set up in a system that students will have experience with while they are in the classroom in person and are ready to go when they perhaps have to be at home for a few days.
Yeah, and I'm sure because of that maybe overnight potential, we will get devices to students
Yes.
somehow, some way, correct?
Absolutely. So that'll either be when we know ahead of time, we can send that home with the child, and we've got a process and a plan for that. If it's a situation where it's in an evening and we realize that a class may need to be home or certain students might be, we will have a pickup process or a process by which we can get those devices to each child who needs one.
Outstanding. Dr. Hofmann, thank you. There's lots of work that's been done to this point, lots of work that continues, but I appreciate you leading us in this area.
Absolutely, and thank you. Our teachers and leaders have done a tremendous job. I'm very fortunate to work with them. So our
Excellent.
students are in great hands, and we're excited to see them.
Excellent. Parents, thank you for your questions. We will continue to do this periodically as questions come up. We are looking forward to having your children back in schools on August the 24th. We'll see you soon. Thank you.